Welcome everyone to the latest edition of Absolute On Air. Today's edition is about maximising the potential of GPT3. Today, I'll be your host. My name's Stephen. I'm the Head of Business Intelligence of Absolute Digital. Along with me today is the Head of IT, Shofiur, and the Head of SEO, Andy, who will be guiding us through the world of GPT3, pros and cons, and all things special about this new toolkit. So Andy, Shof, would you like to do a bit of introduction about yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Andy, you go first.
Okay, yeah, so hi everybody, great to speak to you all. So I'm Andy, I'm the Head of SEO for Absolute Digital.
Hi everybody, this is Shofiur Rahman and I'm the Head of Technical at Absolute Digital Media.
Good stuff, good stuff. So as I said, I'll be hosting on today's session, and I figured what we'll do is we'll break it down into a couple of points about why ChatGPT, use cases, things around paid, use of like some funky bits of tools and programming, and how it can be improved further. But to begin with, what would be great is just to get the who, what, where, and why about ChatGPT3. So Andy, would you be able to explain a bit about what it is and why we should be using ChatGPT3?
Okay, so ChatGPT3, so it's an AI bot, and as I suppose most people know, it's an AI bot. AI bots have been around for ages, but they've mainly been quite gimmicky for a long time. Well, I'm sure most people will have probably come across them. There's been plenty of web applications where you can talk to a robot and it talks back to you in a realistic way. Apparently, most of them haven't been very good up until now. But ChatGPT really seems to have been the first one which has come along that's been actually really good and is getting a lot of traction behind it because it's actually really good and it provides good information, and it's really useful tool. So that's why I use it. It's a great tool. You can get a lot out of it. It's a great time saver. It's great for, in my opinion, it's great for research. And yeah, it's the first one that's come out, at least that I'm aware of. There's possibly other ones out there that never really hit the big time, as it were. But it's the first one that I'm aware of that's come around that actually is useful and isn't just a gimmick talk to somebody type bot. So it actually has applications that you can use to help it in your work, to help yourself in your working life, which is where it really starts to add value, and that's where it really starts to get interesting for a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember that, for years you've said you had like these limited chatbot applications, your e-commerce just help you guys, or conversational commerce, these kind of novelty things. But this has really come out of nowhere in the last couple of months as, your all-in-one slice and dice AI toolkit that can kind of really just drive creative thinking and productivity. And within that there, Shof, would you better go through a couple of ideas you've seen around automation and general productivity with the use of this AI?
Yeah, sure. That ChatGPT, that is actually a great tool for automation and improving the productivity. So it's a natural language processing model. So it have lots of actually potential to improve your productivity. Some of them are like content creation. That is, if you do manual work, that is going to take a huge amount of time to write content, gather the actually ideas, those things. But with ChatGPT, you can generate high quality text for an article or product description or social media post, and you can save time and effort. That is one great thing actually for like digital marketing business and lots of other business. Another thing's customer service. Like you can automate your customer service things with the ChatGPT, because with this ChatGPT you can use to automate the response. So based on your customer response, ChatGPT can prepare a response for you, and you can just hit the button to send that response to your customer.
Okay. Yeah. And then
and some other bits actually we can do, like translation, personalization, and you can actually integrate the ChatGPT with other software to like summarize the tasks, classify the content, analyze the sentiment of the content, and based on that you can actually find out your business business benefits, and actually how the business actually going, how your customer actually reacting on your uh, on your on your service. So you can actually find out those bits with ChatGPT automation. So yeah, I think these are like cool things we have with ChatGPT automation.
Okay, yeah. And then in terms of, as I said, there's a lot within there. As I say, it is kind of a one-stop shop in terms of AI and building into it. But before we jump into some of the benefits of it, can you think of some of the limitations that come with GPT-3 or some of the things it still needs to iron out? So first to you, Andy, and then I'll bring you Shof back in.
Yeah, so I think if you listen to half the blogs out there, or most of them are talking about ChatGPT, you'd be forgiven for believing it can do no wrong. But there are some areas you need to be aware of when using it, because it is an AI tool. It is essentially it's a complicated one, but it's a computer program, so it behaves in certain ways, and you need to be conscious of what it might areas it might struggle with. So one area that it can really struggle with is you've got to keep in mind in terms of how it works. It's been trained on a group of data, on a data set, which is, I believe with ChatGPT, essentially the internet. That's then been cut off at a certain point. So it doesn't know anything after that point when it was cut off, which I believe for ChatGPT3 was late 2019, possibly 2020. But so I might be a bit wrong on the date there, but it is cut off at some point and it doesn't know anything after that. So especially in fast moving industries where things might change, particularly things like medicine, scientific type fields where things can move quite quickly, it's not aware of anything that has happened after that point, anything that may have changed in the industry, anything that may have overturned common consensus previously. So it can end up in certain circumstances giving you very wrong information because it's just not aware of the most recent information.
Yeah, I remember reading some of the T's and C's in it that has no concept of truth. It doesn't know the difference between, you say, right and wrong. It will look for something that looks statistically correct, but maybe completely, wrong. But it will just sound it. Because it's essentially, as you say, a question and answer. You throw in the question, and its mandate is to give you an answer to the best of its ability, even if it doesn't know it. It will just provide it rather than saying, "I can't help you."
Yeah, so yes. It will. Yes, so it will. So as well as like you say, it's been trained on this data set, and you'll ask it a question, it interprets that question using its language model, and then it just gives you it's the most statistically likely answer based on all the data that it's been trained on. So if there's discrepancies in that data it's been trained on, and no AI bot can be trained on all the data in the world, it has to be trained on a section of it. If there's discrepancies on it or potential blank spots in it, then that means you can end up getting an incorrect answer out of it.
Yeah. And Shof, do you have any limitations, drawbacks within ChatGPT3?
Yes, I have a couple of actually limitation. I would say ChatGPT have like limited control. So we have a limited control on to actually keep to actually steer the ChatGPT to right direction, like a specific direction. Some cases you actually, because it's actually work based on the input of your command. So sometimes it's difficult to give like exact command what you want to try, and ChatGPT actually get difficulties to understand your command, and that actually make a difficult situation to control the output. So that is one limitation. And another one is cost. So ChatGPT, that is a resource intensive model that requires significant computing power, which can make a application more expensive.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And then, I mean, we could talk about pros and cons all day long, but I think what we want to do is move more into the world of use cases within this bit of toolkit. So again, Andy, I'll throw it to you just to begin with. What would be the typical use cases of ChatGPT in the world of marketing?
Okay, so use cases that things we've been trialing with and we've been using it with, we're getting some really good results on is where I like using it is it's quite early stage in terms of research. It's a great research tool, asking it to explain things to you, especially as a marketer as well. You've got to get to understand your clients' industries, and sometimes they might be industries that you have no prior experience with. So you can use it to give you summaries about the industry, and then you can ask it questions about those, and it's almost like conversing with an expert in the industry. Like I said before, you need to tread a little bit carefully to make sure it's not leading you down the wrong path, but you can use it as a great tool to quite quickly. It's like having instant access to somebody that's very knowledgeable on that subject, so you can just ask it questions, and it beats reading articles, in my opinion, and not reading up on it, because you can ask it questions and it will answer your questions. So you're not just limited to find a piece of content on what's been written there. You can ask it questions, you can ask clarifying questions, you can ask it to expand on certain elements, or you can ask it to summarize or make things, summarize in more simpler language certain sections, so you can really help build your understanding of areas quickly. So that is a really great use for it that we found as well. We've also been using, like I say, early stages ideation. I find it great for running ideas through and trying to use it to gather ideas quite quickly. So you can run ideas through and get it to expand on those ideas and give you alternatives, so it can help grow. If you're ever brainstorming for anything, it can be a great tool to brainstorm really quickly, to run through suggestions through it and just get it to give you the answers back, instead of spending half an hour yourself sitting there thinking up things. Just spending 10 minutes running things through ChatGPT, you'll probably end up with a bigger and better list than you would have if you just sat there yourself brainstorming yourself. So that's really useful as well. I know some people have been using it for content creation. I'm not quite sold on content creation for it yet. I think it can be useful for, as I say, building outlines and getting ideas of types of things to write. I don't trust it to actually create content itself. I don't find it quite as good as getting an actual talented content writer to write it, rather than using ChatGPT, although it can produce it quickly. So,
So you'd essentially use it for, I don't know, say doing the grunt work, the fact-finding mission, kind of giving you that little jolt in the right direction. And then
the sort of the simplest kind of repetitive tasks it's really useful for, and I say just running ideas through and just expanding lists and trying to when you're in those tasks where you're trying to cast as wide a net as possible, using it to just expand your list and look at wider ranges, it can be much quicker than when you're manually doing it yourself.
Yeah. I can see those cases. I can see those benefits. And then, Shof, over to you in terms of like tech stack integrations with this. We've touched on things around content research side, but what else could we use within ChatGPT3 on a more technical level? How would it be beneficial for us?
Yeah, we can use in different sector with your marketing actually technology stack, like chatbots, like lots of actually business use chatbots. So you can integrate ChatGPT with your existing chatbots, so you can actually personalize your customer service, and it actually can work like around the clock. So like it can support your customer 24 hours, not like on a limited time. So that is, I think, helpful for the business to improve the customer service for their business. So that is one thing. Another thing, content creation. Actually, most of the people actually using that ChatGPT things for content creation. But I agree with Andy that it actually like big content creation, that is actually you need to of course check those bits like it's created correctly or not. So that is like human observation of course are needed. But small content like blog post, social media updates, those type of things, I think it can be handled by ChatGPT. Also, that email newsletter, those things I think can handle by ChatGPT. So still, we can actually use ChatGPT for content creation, but of course, we need human observation on that one. Other things, personalization, like for customer service, you can actually use ChatGPT to personalize your response. So based on your based on your customer client's response, client's email or client's response, your ChatGPT can actually analyze the sentiment of that content of that context, and then it can actually generate a response based on that one. And from different source, I saw this is quite helpful, and it actually works nicely. So I think in personalization, ChatGPT can help in a good way. So another things is ad targeting. So ChatGPT 3 can be used to analyze user behavior and generate insights that can inform ad targeting strategies. By integrating this ChatGPT 3 with ad targeting platform, any business can improve the accuracy and effectiveness of their ad campaign. So I think that will help in terms of paid campaign or the PPC, those type of things. And yeah. And other things is analytics tools, like you can integrate ChatGPT to analyze your customer behaviors, generate the insight that can inform the marketing strategy. By integrating this ChatGPT with analytics platform, business can actually improve their understanding of their customer behavior and preferences, because this ChatGPT actually can do the sentiment analysis, which actually give an opportunity to ChatGPT to analyze the behavior of your customers. So you can actually use these customer feedback with the ChatGPT to analyze these things, and based on that one, you can actually take your business decisions. So yeah, I think that those bits actually help the business in terms of improving their marketing technology stacks.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense there. I think you've drawn onto something which is saying that more than using it as content, you can use it for the analytical side there and have the use basically the power horse of ChatGPT to run that constant analysis on your data whilst
and
looking
customer
at
service.
So you have this kind of never sleeping, never stopping, machine out there building, feeding in, and then it's in turn taking that data and feeding it back into the machine as a full circle loop to help constantly learn and grow. And you mentioned a few things around, say, on the paid side there. So I'll just cover up a couple of things within paid advertising that we use it for. For us, it's out of the box style thinking in terms of content, ad copy. You could, be stuck with particular headlines, descriptions, and certain keywords. You're not sure how to use it for targeting, tone of voice, or you can't think of so many different permutations for an ad. Well, you can put it into ChatGPT 3 and ask me, look, make me 5 different permutations on this ad, or maybe 10 different variations, or what other types of keywords are relevant to the one I'm looking to target, and it will come back with these insights and prompts for you. So it's a great way of expanding your campaigns and ideas with just a bit of toolkit from that. So you're getting the instant feedback loop, and then off the back of that, then you've got new room where you can play around with your campaigns for marketing.
Yeah.
And then over to you, Andy, a bit on terms of you know, we touched on content, we've touched on a bit around sort of, you know, integrating with tech stack. We talked a bit about, you know, analytics side. From day to day, in terms of like researching and content, you know, say content research in particular, how would you go about using it, Chat GPT-3? And have you had any kind of uses or good successes with it?
Yeah, so I think you touched on it there in terms of it's really good for out of the box thinking. So I find it really, really useful for those points when you're hitting that bit of a, you know, bit of writer's block, you're hitting a bit of a wall, you're unsure exactly where to do with it. It can be exactly where to go with what you're doing. It can be a great sounding board to run some ideas through, because you can quickly ask it for, oh, give me some examples of this, or give me some ideas for this, or whatever it might be, and it will throw back, you know, 20 ideas at you that you can then filter through yourself and go, no, those ones are rubbish, but I like these ones, so I'm going to run with those ones, and then go them a bit further. So that's one of the really strong uses we've found for it, is say running those suggestions through it. Like example, you got your keywords for your site, you're doing some keyword research, you can drop your keyword list into it and say, what am I missing? Ask it, what am I missing for a site like this? Suggest additional keywords for a site like X, and explain a bit about the site to it, and it will throw back a load of extra keywords at you that you potentially missed and not thought about. Yeah, a lot of them might be junk that you don't want to target, but there's usually some gems in there as well. So throwing things through like that, like whilst I said I don't recommend it for actually writing content, coming up with ideas of what content to write can be quite useful for. Asking it to give you suggestions, and you know, you can go to it and say, give me 50 blog titles for a website that provides X, Y, and Z, and it will throw back blog titles. Again, a lot of them you filter out, no, I don't like those, but there's usually several gems in there. You think, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I can write some great content around that. And so it's a really good ideation tool. So, and in terms of, like I say, for those brainstorming sessions, for those expanding on your lists, and when you've got that information, or you're hitting a bit of writer's block, and you feel like there's more there, but you can't quite see it yourself, just running it through, asking some questions, and it can throw ideas at you really quickly. Also, like I said earlier, about understanding industries, so you can ask it questions about industries, which can then prompt you to think, oh, actually, maybe based on that, a piece of content explaining that subject would be really good. So I could plan that in, or it can give you ideas around keyword groups and sections of keywords that you might not have done research on already, but it prompts you, it explains a bit about the industry and mentions a factor of it that you've not thought of before. So that then triggers a thought from you to, oh, actually, yeah, I need to explore that a bit more. You explore that a bit more. So yeah, like I say, it's really a lot of what we use it for is almost like an idea sounding board, just bouncing ideas off. It's like having a person there that you can just reach at any time, that's actually pretty knowledgeable on whatever subject you need them to be on, that you can just bounce ideas off. They're not necessarily they're not necessarily a marketer, so they're not going to tell you exactly what you need to do, but you can bounce ideas off them, and they'll add to your ideas that often prompt those little extra steps that you might want to be taking, those little extra areas you want to look in, or those little bit of nuances you want to explore or add to what you're already doing.
Yeah, that all makes sense. To me, I almost says the joke that it's like a you know, when we had, say, Google, Yahoo, and all the other players coming out, and then you had Ask Jeeves. For me, like Chat GPT-3 feels like it isn't.
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, it feels like it's actually a version of Ask Jeeves. You know, they might, you know, Ask Jeeves version, you know, like 10.0. You know, it's just gone through the years and actually, you know, finally actually has the answers that, you know, when you pose the question, it comes back with the correct thing rather than so random and, you know, not related to. I mean, also other things it kind of touches into, which is quite cool and quite handy within this programming language, is it's not just related to content and research and analytics, but as you can pose it technical questions and formulas and regex and other things as well, where you've been struggling with particular syntax or, you know, programming language, and you just can't, you know, fathom it, the parentheses aren't working, or you know, you've got the dot and the wrong dash on your Excel sheet and you just can't get it to work. Well, now you can actually use this to help solve those problems. You can guide with ChatGPT-3, your more technical issues that you have, and the system will be able to say, actually, that case when statement, you need to put the bracket here. It's almost like correcting your homework, so that you can use it as an extra toolkit for your research and analysis. So one way I use it, and sometimes is, complex formulas or things I want to work out, I can just pose the questions as a what if, how do I solve this in an Excel or in a data studio or in a report, and it will come back with the answers. It will come back with the blueprint, and I can fill in the gaps in between it. And there we go. I've now got, a way of splicing my data or mixing things that I've never thought of before, or I struggled to get it and had to go through like Stack Overflow. I can now use this as my one-stop shop for pulling in data. Other ways that would be really good to know about. So Shove, have you tested with other kind of programming languages within GPT-3? Any kind of like additional syntax or anything that you've wanted to throw at it to see if it can prove it right, or is it still in its early stages for you?
Yeah, so in terms of programming language, actually, so yeah, it's the ChatGPT you can use in for different type of work in the world of programming. So like you can use the ChatGPT for code generation. So you can give some command in natural text, and ChatGPT can generate a code snippet for you. Even sometimes it can actually write the entire function for you, what you actually need. But it depends on how you actually give that command to ChatGPT. So, and it also actually, as it a natural language processing system, so it actually take your command as a natural language, and then it actually convert that one to code and give you the output. So this is one thing. And some other things actually you can use in that world of programming, like debugging, documentation, machine learning. So like in terms of debugging, you can actually give the your script, whatever programming language is used. You can use Python, you can use C#, or you can use PHP, whatever language you actually write your programming. If it have any issue, you can actually give it to ChatGPT. It can analyze your programming, and it can identify the bug you have on there, and you can actually debug in that way in ChatGPT. And also when you actually writing any function or any class in your programming, you can actually use the ChatGPT to do the documentation for your function for your class. So that is a helpful thing. So you don't need to spend extra time to create the documentation for your script. Actually, it's like a save time. So and it actually keeps nice organized. So when you actually come back later time or later date on your application on your script, you will understand actually what you done a previous day. So that is helpful, this documentation. And a machine learning thing, actually, ChatGPT can be used to generate like training data for machine learning models, or even to generate entire model in response to a given like a command. So this ChatGPT can be integrated with machine learning platform, and then developer can improve the speed and accuracy of machine learning workflow. So that is like in another field you can use ChatGPT.
Okay. It sounds like lots of things to kind of touch into. I get the feeling that people are just really scratching the surface in terms of functionality and use cases. The way I've kind of summarized it is that you started with pen and paper, and then pen and paper moved to a calculator, and then a calculator moved to a PC, and then a PC moved into the world of Excel, and then you have the internet, and you're building and building, and now it just gets faster and faster. Now this is released out as your latest toolkit, which speeds things up.
Yeah.
But the way I see it though is ultimately it's doing the task for us, but there should always be some kind of checks and balances in control, and like an operator, a human, to manage it. So from Andy, I just want to get your thoughts on the level of control needed within AI and GPT-3. Where do you sit? Do you think just let the machine run with it, go full steam ahead, or have a human operating it in control?
I'm a big believer. A human needs to be in control. It's not there yet. You hear about, when you start talking about AI, you start getting mental images of sci-fi and computers that can like actively think and evolve and all that, and it's like it's not there yet. It's probably quite a way away from that. A human definitely needs to be involved. I think we touched on some of these elements earlier. I don't think it's a tool. It's a tool for people to use like other tools. It doesn't replace the person. It makes their life easier. It makes their life better. It allows them to do more and quicker, but it doesn't replace them. So I mean, some areas where I know AI often struggles with, we mentioned earlier, in terms of if information has changed since it was stopped being trained, it's completely unaware of that. So it could be not be aware of new information. But one area that it can quite struggle with is it doesn't self-correct, in terms of there's sometimes things that you can see out there as a human, you look at and you immediately know that's a categorization error and it's just wrong. But AI doesn't have that inherent understanding. It doesn't have that, so it can take an error and it can run with it and build on it. And if there's no checks and balances in place, then that can sort of snowball and go out of effect. I think there's one round that did the rounds recently of somebody asked ChatGPT, I think it was, what's the fastest land mammal? And it said some form of hawk. I forget exactly what it was, but it basically said a bird. And it went, and they kept on re-questioning it. Like, are you sure? Is that right? I don't think that's quite right. And it kept on doubling down and doubling down. That's wrong. And then they pointed out that a hawk isn't a land mammal. And then ChatGPT was like, oh yeah, you're right. It's a killer whale. And it's still not a land mammal. So it just got that fundamental categorization wrong. There must have been some element of the question that he posed that he just didn't understand, and that just meant the answer was almost right, but not quite. But as a human, you'd instinctively see it and you immediately know that's wrong. You can see a bird isn't a land mammal, a killer whale isn't a land mammal. Straight away you can see it's wrong, but AI can't. It just has what it's been trained on, and if what it's been trained on is telling it that's right, it just runs with it. So that's why you need to keep a human in control as well. So other things as well where I've seen people using it, and you will see people saying, I know we've been saying you shouldn't, but you will see people say you can use it for creating content. It can get really repetitive, and I've seen it in times make things up in content. It's just made things up, and it doesn't tell you that it's made things up. It just made something up to serve as an example. It doesn't highlight it as an example or call it out. It just sticks it in the content it gives you. And if you then aren't checking it yourself and keeping an eye on it and making sure it's doing what it should be, you can then be spreading misinformation yourself. You can then be putting things in your content, in your articles, that have just been made up by an AI, and you're then giving wrong information, which is then going to harm your website and what the content that you're trying to create. So whilst it's a great tool for doing lots of work really quickly, doing simple tasks, ideation and research and all the other things we've discussed, it still needs that person in control. It still needs, at the moment at least, it's not quite that advanced. It still needs that person's brain behind it all, just checking everything, making sure it's right, making sure it's doing what you want it to be doing, and it's not sort of running off on a tangent and going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember when I studied history, so you've got your source material, you've got your books, you've got your, your research and notes, and you're writing up your conclusions. And I remember doing a couple of essays, and the teacher was just like, so where did you get that source from? And you're like, I got it from the internet. And then you just watch this like hand to face, like just like palming, just like, why, did you double check the source? And you're like, no, it's fine. And then you actually double check it, and the source you looked at was completely incorrect, and no one would bother to really, look at it from a verified source. And to a degree, that's what it's doing. It's looking at statistical information, and that could be statistically incorrect, and it's just looking for the right answer. Because I remember on the internet years back, people used to just troll things on Wikipedia and write anything up or change articles, and people would take that as gospel. And of course, the machine learning will look at it look at sites and think, well, that must be correct, and it will just copy what's already wrong and put it in. Yeah, we're actually taking the step to correct itself. Which leads me on to my my next question there. Over to you there, Shof. In the event that GPT-3 is wrong, and you know it's wrong, and everything tells you that it's going in the wrong path, how do you prompt it in the right direction? How do you guide it to say that you know better than it, so that it can give you the right response? Is there any kind of tips you can do?
So it's actually like for normal user, actually, they can actually slightly modify their command to actually take on the right direction, ChatGPT. But if it still doesn't actually goes in right direction, then of course there are some issue, because ChatGPT is an AI language model. So it actually learns from a large data set of text and use that information to generate response for new inputs. So it doesn't have the ability to learn from its mistake like a human actually does. Like if a human do the mistake, they actually learn from there. But when a machine actually comes, they're not learning from that mistakes. So that's where a developer actually need. So because these AI system, those are actually developed like engineers, software engineers, and developers. So so these ChatGPT system have some functionality to feedback those mistakes to them through the API request. So on the ChatGPT, OpenAI actually released this ChatGPT software, and their API actually include one thing which called log probes. So you can actually pass this log probes parameter with your API request, and then it will actually provide the response with additional information, like how that response should be and how this response is generated. And if you see that response and you think, no, that is not correct, it have some error, then you can use those information and send back to ChatGPT GPT developer, and they can actually take those things with them, and they can actually see, yes, if there are some error, they will update their system. They will like teach their AI system, like this is wrong, you have to actually do these things. So yeah, that's how actually that AI system actually learn. It's not learn like how human learn by himself. It's like there is a developer need who actually feed the machine that, yeah, no, this is not right, you have to do these things. So yeah, so that's how actually this error can be minimized and improve the system.
Okay. So there's kind of still a bit to go in terms of teaching it, but as I said, it is kind of in its early stage of infancy and kind of working its way through. And then kind of just so we've touched on quite a lot here in terms of content, analytics, some of the early adoptions, what things coming with ChatGPT3. What would be good, as a nice little summary up, is your kind of closing thoughts on, where you see it going in the future, and for those who are just starting out with it, what kind of baby steps would you recommend, for getting your teeth into these kind of AI? So Andy, if I start with you.
Yeah, so I'll try. So where I see it going in the future, I'll try and not stray too far into the realms of the fantastical. But it's quite exciting because it's a young technology, so there's so much scope for where it can go. But yeah, without moving too far into the realms of science fiction, in terms of where I can see it going in the more immediate future is we know Microsoft is integrating it with Bing. There's an attempt to catch up with Google. Google have their own Bard coming out soon, and so which will be integrated in search. So I could see that having a big impact on search, specifically as we're focused on digital marketing, in terms of why would users need to go to a website if you've got an AI that can answer your questions? There, obviously, there's still some uses for web. There's still going to need to go to websites for certain things like buying things and so on, like e-commerce sites and purchasing services and things like that. But informational traffic could potentially disappear from websites because it could just be answered straight by Google in the search results. In which case, then you wouldn't need to necessarily go through to the website. So that would have a huge impact on websites, specifically certain types of websites. Specifically, I'm thinking like media sites and so on. They could potentially have huge impacts on them. We'll wait and see. It depends how Google's actually going to launch it, and there's lots of unknowns within that. But potentially, that's a way I could see it going. In terms of users just starting to get to grips with it, just the best way I find, just go and play with it. Just set yourself up an account, log in, and just play with it. Just go in, run some questions through it. Just ask it questions. Find out what it can do for yourself. Find out, because every person I tend to find uses it slightly differently. So just go and have a play with it and see where you'll find value in it. And ask it some questions. See and find out where it can add value for you. And the best way to do that is just playing with it. Just see what it can do and see how it can fit in with what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I like it. Basically, just try it, break it, and then see where it goes to. I'm looking forward to it being the world of the Jetsons and the full AI, and it just does it all for you, and those fancy things within the world of sci-fi. But yeah, I think it is a bit early days there.
Yeah.
And then, Shof, where do you think it will go to? In the future, any ideas or?
Yeah, I'm seeing a bright future actually, because this AI system now actually making user life easier, bringing speed on in their life, and also like this ChatGPT, it's working as your personal expert with you always. So if like you get any problem, you can actually ask those things to your expert, and you can actually get the help from there. You probably not need to wait for that human expert can help you, but with the ChatGPT, like you working like two people together, not like you working yourself. So yeah, I would say it is have like a bright future, and yeah, it will actually make human lives very easy and yeah, comfortable, and human can actually move more forward and move faster.
Yeah. No, I can see it. I mean, we'll see how it all goes, and with the new players coming in, and so how Google picks up of it and how it integrates with other platforms as well. Yeah, from my part, it is one of those. It's been around for a long time, these kind of concepts of technology, but it's just been released into the wild now, so it's the hot topic in terms of marketing. And I think I don't see it replacing existing jobs or existing processes. It would just be that extra arm to help you see outside the box, see what's coming through, be that support in terms of analytics, that kind of machine that helps drive your decisions, provided it has the right data and the right checks and balances to control it, so it's not going down that little rabbit hole. But yeah, I think it'd be good to see where this takes it, and look forward to seeing how it goes in the future. So I think this kind of wraps up our session on GPT-3 today. And closing argument would say just to give it a try, see how it works for yourselves and your marketing campaigns. And we'd love to hear from yourselves in terms of your use cases, or if you've got any specific questions about how to get involved in tech or just in general marketing. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to hear some of your ideas as well. So on behalf of me, Andy, and Shof, I hope you've enjoyed this session today, and wish you a great day.